This podcast is for anyone tired of sitting on the couch watching fucking Netflix. For anyone who wants to know how to break the 9-to-5 slave life. For anyone who wants to be better tomorrow than they are today. I want to help you learn how to break the cycle. This is your story, and you have to write it. Come on in. We're just getting started. Hey, everybody, what's going on? This is the Getting Started podcast, and as always, I am your host, Sean Buster, here today with a very special guest, y'all. Let me introduce y'all to the founder and creator of Dad Bod Health, Mr. Jason Priest. How are you this morning, brother?
I'm good, man. Thank you for having me on.
Man, it's not a problem, man. I've been following you for a while. I'm sure, a lot of my listeners have been following you for a while, too. So, man, just real quick, give us a little bit of introduction about what Dad Bod Health is and what it is you do.
Yeah, man. In a short, I help guys achieve optimal health without sacrificing burgers and beer, man. That's obviously really my brand. As you can tell by the logo behind me, that's what I do. I believe that food is one of the many joys of life. I believe that, you can get healthy and be in great shape without giving up those things. And I come from a place where, I'm not willing to do that. I went through my own weight loss journey, man. I was 60 pounds overweight. I've tried keto and the fad diets and all that nonsense. And any diet that forces me to give up my favorite foods isn't for me. Dude, I'm a dad. I have a 5-year-old. I have a kid on the way who will be another boy who will be here in August. And, ultimately, I'm a family guy, dude. And we like to go out to eat. That's what we do as a family. Who lives in Texas. There's a lot of patio season. And in order for me to do that, I'm not willing to restrict, burgers and fajitas and tacos and pizza and all the great things that there are to have in life. So what I did was develop a system that has proven itself time and time again. And it just works. And, a lot of the guys in my Man Up community are getting fantastic results by simply following the system. I don't believe in long, strenuous hours of cardio. I don't believe in living a very rigid lifestyle. I believe that, and again, food is one of the many joys of life. And so that's kind of my theory, man. And again, the system just works. I put it to play on myself for the last damn near 10 years. And seeing other guys implement the system and get similar results has been outstanding. So that's a little bit about who I am and what I do.
Awesome, man. Awesome. And I think that's why you resonate so much with me, man. I've done a few diets over the years. Nothing that I'm not going to say I saw success or failure with any of them. Really, just they weren't for me.
Get it?
And like you, man. I'm a dad. I love my burgers. The bigger and the cheesier, the better, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, man. I understand, dude. And I, that's why I feel like my business has a lot of room to grow. I have a huge, I'm very niche, but I have a large niche to go after because at the end of the day, here's the thing is like most dudes are like us. They don't want to give up that shit, man. Like I'm an IPA guy. I'm a beer snob.
I'm right there with you, man.
Yeah, dude. And like tonight's Friday night. This is my time to enjoy myself. And I don't drink at all during the week. And, tonight I'm looking forward to having a couple of really nice beers. Like I said, I'm an IPA snob. I will not buy anything with less than 7% alcohol. And I want it. I like it as juicy and hazy as possible. And so with that being said, it's one of those things that I look forward to. And I'm not advocating for here's the thing. I'm not everybody's cup of tea, but I only need to be one small group of people's shot of whiskey. And the thing is I had a guy, I'll just be fully transparent with you. I had a guy message me today wanting to quit the Man Up community. And he's on a 3-month free trial right now. I was offering a 3-month free trial. After that, it's $9.97 a month. Like dirt cheap, dude. You get access to the group. You get access to the app. We have 100 guys in there that are all crushing it, dude, doing really, really great things for less than $10 a month. So because of the coronavirus, I offered up, a 3-month free trial. And the dude joined 3 weeks ago. He messages me and says, hey, man, how do I cancel? I'm like, I was confused. I was like, dude, you have 3 months before you need to cancel. It's totally free. You have the app. You've posted in the group a few times. It seems like you're doing well. And his response was, it's just not a good fit for me. And my thought is probably, and I don't like to make assumptions, but I'm assuming that the burger and beer talk, because we do a lot of that in the community, just wasn't for him. And that's okay. It's not for everybody, man. Like, I'm not advocating for dudes to start drinking beer if they're not a beer drinker, but I am. And if you want to learn how to get healthy and get in great shape and feel your best every day and take on the day with soaring energy levels, and achieve optimal health for yourself, then I have a system that works. But if you're not a beer drinker and you can't deal with cheat meals every week and you are an all or none person, then my community is not for you. And so, I canceled his membership and we move on, and no love lost. But I just wanted to bring up that example because I get it, man. Like, it's not for everybody, but the people that it is for, just thrive in that environment. So
that's awesome, man. That's really cool. And I'm noticing this kind of a shift in the whole fitness and health industry is kind of moving towards a system where you can stay in shape and stay healthy and not have to give up the food you enjoy, because I think there's more people as a culture and as a whole, especially with the whole coronavirus thing that's been going on, they're starting to spend more time with their families. They're starting to appreciate their families more. And
no doubt.
Going out and having a family dinner somewhere is, in my mind, the epitome of, the American dream to a degree.
I agree with you 100%, because here's the thing, man. Like, if you have small kids, what else, like, in reality, what else is there to do? Like, you cannot go to a movie theater with small kids.
No, you can't.
I think Blake was 3 or 4 last time we went, or maybe it was the first time we went and the last. And that's not, it didn't work, right? Like, he's disrupting the whole thing. And, like, I'm not a big movie guy anyway. You can go to a theme park on occasion. You can go to a museum. Like, we have a cool-ass museum here called the Perot Museum, which is nice. We've got, these Crayola places that are popping up everywhere where the kids go in, and it's like Crayola land. They get to make a crayon. They get to play on all kinds of shit, do all kinds of different things. But, like, that's an expensive outing, and you're not going to do that every weekend. And so as far as going out to eat goes, like, that is the staple for most families with young kids, because you can go out to eat, the kids can be entertained, and especially in Texas, we have patios with playgrounds. Like, there are 2 restaurants near me. One's a Mexican food restaurant, one's a burger joint. The burger joint is one of my top burger joints anywhere. The Mexican food is not bad. And so those are 2 places within 5 minutes of my house where I could take my kid, soon to be 2 kids. They can play on the damn playground while my wife and I can kick back, enjoy a margarita if we're at the Mexican place, or a beer if we're at the burger joint, not right now since she's pregnant, and actually chill and enjoy ourselves. And when you have that potential and still keep the check within reason, then, it's very appealing. And it's just it's something that I'm not willing to give up. And to your point, a lot more people are spending more time with family, and they realize, that's one of the positives that has come from this coronavirus, is that the family bonds. Well, there's also been the domestic abuse side of things too, which I try not to focus on. But the family bonds seem to have been growing stronger with a lot of the social media content that I've seen out there. People have grown closer to their families, which, like I said, it's a good thing. So
definitely, man. And, and I've been saying this for the last several weeks now. I think with this whole coronavirus, you're going to see a massive paradigm shift in just about every area of life for, I'm saying, at least the rest of this year, if not, longer in the future to come. But,
yeah, I agree with you, man. I agree.
So anyway, let's back up a little bit, man. Oh, there's my youngest one right there trying to pop in and say hi.
What's up, buddy?
Hi.
Go play with your sister. But let's back things up a little bit, man. Let's go back to you coming up and start before you even started the Dad Bod Health, man. What how was your childhood growing up? Were your parents entrepreneurs? Did you have any specific traits in school or jobs that you worked as a teenager that kind of pushed you towards being an entrepreneur?
No, man, I'm a late bloomer, dude. None of my family ever owned businesses. They were all corporate world workers. But I had a troubled upbringing, man. I grew up in a single family household with my mom. My mom was an alcoholic, smoked in the house. So I, and I didn't realize this till later in life, but I was big into the rave scene, dude. I was a big drug head and did drugs from the time I was 13 till probably when I was 21, I think, when I finally decided to hang up the drug use and start nursing school. But with that being said, like I said, I didn't realize that I thought it was an extracurricular activity that I just enjoyed. And I mean, who doesn't like ecstasy and acid every day? But with that being said, later on, I realized that, all I was doing was covering up the pain that I was dealing with from seeing my mom in that condition. And so my mom got remarried when I was like 13. So I had a stepdad that moved in. And he was never really a father figure to me, man. It was just another dude in the house because I was already 13. I was a bigwig teenager, right? And so they tried, but I essentially had to become a man on my own. My dad was involved with my sports, and that's about it. And now my dad and I have rekindled our relationship. We did not have a very good relationship for a really long time. And just this year, this is the closest we've ever been in I'll literally say in my entire life. And so that's a good thing that, I finally owned it, man. I was like, I called him. I was like, I want to own it all. I'll apologize. Let's move forward, dude, because I want you to be a part of my, my kid's future. And so, with that, I was heavily involved with drugs, finally made the decision that I couldn't do that anymore. I was going down a real dark path and I was too smart to do that. So I decided to start nursing school, man. I was going to community college, talked to a couple dudes who were talking about nursing school. I don't think either one of them ended up ever doing it, but they sparked my interest on it. I knew that I could spend 2 years in school, get out at 23 years old and make six figures. And back then I was like, you know what? That sounds very appealing to me. Let's roll, And so that's what I did. And good thing I did, because I met my wife in the hospital. My wife is a pharmacist now. Back then, she was just a pharmacy tech, and she actually asked me out. But we met in the hospital, and I got married at 25. She was 23. 2 months after we got married, my mom passed away. And so that's really when my journey started, dude. I became very depressed, was drinking way too much beer, eating a lot of fast food, living off shitty food, and felt like I put on 60 pounds overnight, but I ballooned up to my highest weight, which was, I believe it was 232. And, I just wasn't ready to address it for a while, man. And I went on about 4 years before I finally was like, you know what, I got to do something because this is not the guy that I want to be. And that's really, really kind of the back end of my story, the shortened version, at least.
Cool, man. Cool. Man, I can kind of relate to that, growing up in a very dysfunctional household myself, things do get, dangerous, especially when you start getting into drug use at an early age like that. And, fortunately for yourself, you were able to pull yourself out of it roughly around the same time that I pulled myself out of mine. And I think it's really cool how a lot of your story there had a lot of kind of comparisons to my own. So when you first decided to start Dad Bod Health, or I guess when you first decided to kind of get into fitness in general, what was it that really spurred that one? Was it having your first kid? Was it just being sick and tired of just having no energy and being sick and tired all the time? Or what spurred that whole interest?
That's a great question, man. So it was the latter. I didn't have kids yet, and I knew that one day we would probably have kids, and I didn't want to be a father who didn't make his health a priority. So we moved off to a small town called Abilene, Texas, which is about 3 hours west of here. And while we were there, that was where my wife went to pharmacy school. And while we were there, I was not taking my health seriously for the first 3.5 years. We had access to one of the nicest gyms that I've ever stepped foot in. And unfortunately, I didn't use it for 3.5 years. And this was back then, I think the membership was $50 a month per person, and she was getting it for free through her pharmacy school. And I just, I wasn't a gym guy. Wasn't ready to be a gym guy, and finally decided that I was going to go up there and try it out. And I became addicted to spin classes, man. And got involved with the spin classes for my cardio, started lifting weights. And in about 9 months, I was able to drop that 60 pounds. Was later featured in Men's Health for that. But I didn't start my business till later on, man. I actually, we moved back to Dallas after pharmacy school. And she started doing her residency. And I started working in corporate wellness. And I was doing health coaching in the corporate wellness world. And that's when I became a personal trainer, added that on to my registered nurse, and really just kind of compiled it all together. And I worked there for, about 8 years, and finally was very unfulfilled, decided that I couldn't do it anymore. I didn't want to work for the man. I wanted my own business. I'd always wanted my own business. I had a few little side ventures that I'd tried before. And so finally just took the leap, man, and decided, you know what, I can't do it anymore. I'm very unfulfilled. This is not for me, and I got to do something else. And I cannot fathom the thought of turning 50 or 60 years old, knowing that, I didn't bet on myself and bet on the fact that I was capable of providing more value to the world than I was able to do in the corporate wellness world.
Absolutely, man. So when you were first starting to, I guess while you're doing your health coaching and your personal training, before you really stepped into or I guess when you first started to start your own business, were there any mentors you looked at? Like, was that something that you knew you needed to have from the get-go, or was it just like let me just take a shot in the dark and see where the dart lands?
Well, no, I found a guy that kind of helped me with the fitness blueprint side of things, really on what I needed to do in terms of setting up the fitness aspect of my business, which hindsight being 2020, I wish I would have never hired him. It was wasted money, but I've wasted a lot of money along this journey, dude. I've made some really bad decisions, fallen straight on my face many, many times, had some really bad marketing teams behind me that wasted not only a lot of money, but also a lot of time, which is the one thing that I can't get back. The money doesn't bother me nearly as much as the time, because I feel like I should be significantly further ahead than I am now in terms of impact. Like, my business is doing okay, but I want to do more than okay. I want to give people an opportunity to work for my business. I never wanted to be a one-man show, but I'm starting to build a solid foundation for a team now, which is great. I've got a fantastic marketer on my side now. But in terms of mentors, man, like, I'll just throw it out there. Like, I was friends with Ryan Stewman at a very young age. We grew up together. We got in a lot of trouble together. And when we were, 7, 8 years old, all the way up until, in our late teens, before he went to prison for the first time. I have vivid memories of doing a lot of bad stuff with him, everywhere from drugs, throwing rocks at cars, man. And so we kind of already had a bond, going back from my school days. And I was off social media for probably about 2 years before I got back onto social media, knowing that was going to be one of the ways to leverage my business. And, we crossed paths again after I hired the fitness guy. I reached out to him and I was like, hey, man, obviously I see what you're doing now that I'm back on social media, because he was friends. We were friends from, before he even created his path to success, but on Facebook. And, so I was seeing his content, but we were all friends with all the people that went to school with each other. So, some of them were liking his shit. So it's showing up in my feed and I saw what he was doing. So I reached out and was like, hey, man, what do I need to do, dude? Like, I need your help. Let's do it. And, the rest is history. He's been a great mentor to me. Never thought I would call my old school childhood buddy that used to get in trouble with a mentor, but he obviously knows the game and has built himself quite the empire. So that's probably the one guy that I've consistently followed. I've got a lot of people that I keep an eye on. My favorite outside of Ryan would be Andy Frisella. I think that he's been very foundational in some of the values that I hold for my business and my life. But otherwise, those are the two main ones. I don't pay much attention. Here's the thing, man. Like, this. I don't have time to sit around and listen to 7 different podcasts every day. I pick my 1 or 2 and I roll with it. And, I've got my own podcast. I do 2 episodes a week. And so it's a lot to keep up with. And there's no way that I can consume the amount of content that I wish I could, because I know there's a lot of value out there and a lot of people's content. But, you got to pick and choose. And those are the 2 that I roll with.
Awesome, man. Yeah, and I'm right there with you. It was actually Ryan Stewman that kind of inspired me on this whole journey. I knew I was getting sick of working for anybody. I was ready to do it for myself. A buddy of mine said, well, man, I don't really know anybody I could recommend to you, but I like to follow this guy sometimes. So he turned me on to Ryan. And of course, I found the Rewire podcast, and it's been a long, ongoing journey from there, man. And,
That's
Andy,
cool,
Andy is Andy. That's just all there is to that. I love Andy. He's definitely not everybody's cup of tea. And that's cool. Everybody's not.
He doesn't
for
need to be
everybody.
everybody's cup of tea, man. Like, at the end of the day, he's built an empire, and he tells it like it is, man. He's a straight shooter. And I'm not going to tell you that I agree with everything that he says. But we're very much aligned, man. Like, a lot of the values that he has in life, are very, very similar to mine. And that's the message that I resonate with. And so, I admire his success. But I also admire his core values, because they're very close to mine. And he's helped me in a lot of ways that he'll never know, whether I meet him or not. I've met his wife, and she's an amazing person. But they're, his show and even the new show, is fantastic, man. And it's just one of those where, like, there's so much value in those shows and those episodes that if you actually implement on what he talks about, your life is going to improve.
Absolutely, man. And I like that you pointed out there too that when you're starting your own business and when you're running your own business, you don't have time to consume 7 or 8 podcasts a day. Right?
No.
There's plenty of people out there that are listening to, they've got, Gary V, and then they've got, Andy, and then they've got Ed Milet, and the list goes on. And I'm like, how do you do it? Like, I get one on the ride to work in the morning. I get one on the ride to work on the way home. That's it. Like,
Yeah.
maybe if, the kids are finally being quiet, which, I've got 4 of them. So the chances are that's never going to happen.
Yeah.
I might pop one on while I'm taking a shower, listen to it for a few minutes or something, but.
No, I understand, man. That's just it. Like, if you're listening to 7 or 8 podcasts a day, you're probably not moving forward with whatever your path to success is. And, there's a lot of people out there that spend way too much time on social and way too much time consuming content when they could be, producing their own content. So, some lessons that I've learned. I used to try to listen to way more than I do now, but you got to pick and choose, man. You got to keep your priorities straight.
Definitely, man. So what about books, man? What are some books that really kind of kicked it into gear for you? What are some books that you gained, like, quite a bit of value from, as far as, I would say, implementing, well, all right, let me see if I can phrase this right. As far as taking your life and implementing it into your business while not basically, I guess, being married to the business. Because I see a lot of guys out there. A real good buddy of mine, he started a restaurant several years ago, some amazing barbecue. And
That's cool.
Which I know, competing with Texas barbecue, I know y'all are real biased towards that, but and I love the guy to death. But he's just now, after 10 years, 15 years, starting to learn that he's been married to his business for so long that it's hard for him to pull out of it and let other people take care of it for him. So are there any books that you've kind of given you that sort of like process, maybe, or some value that can lead towards that?
As far as separating myself from my business, here's the thing, dude. Like, ultimately the goal is to work on the business and not always be working in the business. And, I'm less than 2 years in. And so I'm not going to sit here and lie and say that I'm to that point yet, dude. Like, I'm working in the business every day. And until I get to a point where I've got some team members that are full time for me, it's going to be tough to not work in the business. But, I really, I focus a lot more on personal development books and really ways to, some are tactical. Like, I just finished not long ago, The Psychology of Selling from Brian Tracy, which is good. I just finished How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. That was a solid read. Think and Grow Rich is always good. I'll probably read that every year. Let's see. Right now, I just started the Dichotomy of Leadership by Jocko Willink. So that's really what I'm diving into now. I read the Daily Stoic, but for me, like a lot of this is just figuring out on your own. I'm not sure that any one book out there can really change your perception. Because here's the thing, like most good books are several hundred pages, and for you to be able to implement all that, it takes way more than one read. You got to go through those things several times, and that's another time thing. Like I try to read every day, except for on the weekends. I don't really follow through with it, but Monday through Friday, I try to get 10 pages in a day. But it's very hard to especially it's the first time through on a book, dude. It's very hard to implement what you're learning in the book. But you got to nourish the mind, man. And so a lot of it is just figuring out on your own as well. And taking bits and pieces from the books, the podcasts, learning as many lessons as you can on the way.
Awesome, man. Right on. I know you're big on family. I know that's your whole thing is, the Dad Bod. And I love the way that you incorporate your son, especially, I've been watching you and following you throughout the coronavirus. You've been incorporating your son into your workouts, and yeah. I love the videos sitting there and you're just bench pressing him up and down. I think those are great. I tried that with mine. They can't be still enough, and I dropped one. So we have to work on that some more. But man, I love everything out there you're doing, man. I think what you have is a really great message. And go for it, honey. I love everything you're doing, man. I love the message you're putting out. I love the image you're putting out. And man, I love watching everything from you, dude. You are a true inspiration to me.
I appreciate that, man.
So kind of wrapping things up a little bit, man, is there anything new going on that you'd really like to talk about? Any kind of new ventures or offers you want to make out there?
I'm not a really big sell on a podcast guy, man. I always have an open invitation to the Man Up community. Like I said, man, that's right now, I'm trying to help as many guys as I can. The engagement in that group is growing more than it ever has. And I finally feel like we have a solid foundation of, like I said, 100 dudes, man, that are just all working on becoming the healthiest version of themselves. So anybody can go check that out at themanupcommunity.com. All my offers and all my website content has been recently updated. So anybody can check that out at dadbodhealth.com or jasonapriest.com. I have my own personal branded website now as well. Only main thing I'm working on right now, I just launched a new program called the Optimal Performance Program, which is a private group coaching program where these guys have lifetime access to me. And they have lifetime access to a private Facebook group that's outside of the Man Up community. They have access to my health portal. I just created a health portal over the last several months. There's about 50 or 60 videos in there of all my content, specifically tailored to achieving optimal health. They get lifetime access to my app. Literally starts them from getting off the couch, from Netflix and chips to working all the way up to healthy and ripped. And so, it's a really program tailored to the guy that just doesn't know where to get started, man. And then we do weekly group Zoom coaching calls. And so that's the main focus right now, because that's going to give me the ability to touch more lives, help more men, and create a separate community outside of the Man Up community that can really thrive and work towards becoming the healthiest version of themselves.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So man, before I let you go, I've got one question I like to ask everybody. It's just it's as much as me trying to get some advice as it is to spread the advice to anybody else out there that might be trapped in the same situation. What is the absolute best piece of advice you can offer for those out there who they're kind of skeptical about this whole entrepreneurial lifestyle or whatever you want to call it, but they realize that their current lifestyle just isn't working for them anymore? Like, what kind of value could you impart on someone who's in a situation where they work all week, 40, 50, 60 hours a week, they're just making ends meet, but they have no idea how to begin to even break free of that just typical 9-to-5 slave life?
Yeah, no, I totally get it, man. fortunately for me, I already had something that I was very passionate about, which was health. And, in order to break free, you've got to have something that you're passionate about. And that's the thing is like and if you don't, and you really just want your own business, you've got to realize that there's no aspect of starting a business that's easy. It does not happen overnight. And for most people, it takes years to build. I mean, there's been months where I had no income. Fortunately for me, my wife is a pharmacist and does very well for herself. So in the beginning, when when there were months that went by with zero income, she was able to carry our weight. And I'm very grateful for that. So you've got to realize that, there's going to be a setback. You've got to be willing to accept the fact that you're going to have to take a giant step back to potentially take 5 to 10 giant leaps forward. And that's just part of the grind, part of the journey. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that I don't have days where I still have some doubts. I still have some concerns about the future. I know that at the end of the day, everything's going to work out well for me because I'm not going to quit. And that's the thing is you have to really know going in that you cannot quit. If you break free and you decide, hey, you know what, I'm going to go start an e-com business, right? You can go get a ton of information on starting e-com business. There's a lot of proven programs out there. I've getting them popping up on my YouTube ads and my TikTok feed all the time. So there's the information. We don't lack for information. But what we lack is the follow through to actually continue to push forward. Is most people quit, and that's why businesses fail. And so you cannot quit. You have to continue to remain resilient and continue to put out consistent content so that people know who you are and you can actually build a brand. And that's where a lot of people go wrong. They get scared of posting on social media. They get scared of doing live videos. They get scared of doing this or that. And there's no place for fear in the entrepreneurial space. I know there's a lot of fake gurus out there who will tell you they can make you an overnight sensation, and it's just not true. And you've got to realize that you will work harder than you ever have worked in your entire life to try to build a business. And if you're not ready for that, then, I encourage you to stick to the slave job because this is not for everybody. And I'm not going to sit here and say that, that anybody and everybody should or could start a business because there's a lot of people out there that aren't cut out for it. My wife tells me all the time, she does very well. She's a career-driven woman. She tells me all the time that there's no way she could do what I do. It's very stressful, as you well know. And there's a lot of times where there's uncertainty. You don't know what the future is going to behold, especially with global pandemics that we're going through right now. So I know that was a bit long-winded, but ultimately, man, it's about deciding to go all in. And when I say go all in, go all the way the hell in. And then when you make that decision and you make that commitment to yourself, you can't quit. You have to realize there are going to be days where you feel like the world is crashing down and you just have to keep pushing forward, man. And if you do that, you have some core values that you live by, whether that's the G code or whether that's the 4 F's with faith, family, fitness, and finance, whatever your core values are, man, and staying grounded by a few principles like that can help you tremendously. But that's my best advice, man. It's I would be lying to tell anybody out there that's listening to this that this is an easy journey because it isn't.
Absolutely, man. A lot of people are scared to say that, and thank you for saying that because there are a lot of people out there. They start this journey, they get 3, 4, 5, 6 months in. Some of them I've even seen, they're a year into it and they just up and quit. And that's you got to have some real fortitude to make it through this, and you've got to have some real. If there's any one thing in this world that I think will truly test your character, it's betting on yourself.
100%, dude.
Going all in because, when your back's up against the wall, what are you going to do?
Here's the thing, man. Like when you have a real world job in terms of working for somebody, you can procrastinate. You can not do the work that you should be able to do or that you're supposed to be doing. You can, you have deadlines and things, but you can put things off to the last minute. You can not live up to what you're supposed to do in the corporate world. When you own your own business, man, like you're the boss. And if there's a day where you don't feel like doing shit and you don't do shit, that's a day wasted. And that's a day with you not moving forward. And some of the times where you grow most are on those days where you don't want to do anything and you still make it happen. And that's what people need to realize, is that this is not easy, but it's very doable. And if you have something that you're passionate about, I don't care what your niche is. There's a lot of money to be made out there, and a lot of lives to serve, and a lot of lives to improve by whatever your product or service may be. But you have to make a decision to go all in, and that's all there is to it.
Absolutely, man. Jason, man, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here, man. That's some amazing advice for everybody. And last question before you go, I've got to know, man. Up to this point in your life, favorite beer?
Those all come from New York, man, or the East Coast, unfortunately. And I have to get those off of Tavour, the delivery app. Have you tried Tavour ever?
Man, I've wanted to. We don't get Tavour in my area.
Oh, I think you told me about that in one of my posts. So to answer your question, I don't have the name of any of them because there was about 10 of them that I tried that were all equal competitors. Now, with that being said, there are a few in Texas that I really like, but they're just not the juicy and hazy that I truly like. Unfortunately, the problem with those is that they're so good that it's sometimes hard to stop drinking them. Now, with that being said, my favorite Texas beers, my top Texas beer is called Axis, and it's made by Real Ale Brewing Company, and they make several beers that I really like, but Axis is my favorite IPA that they make. Then there is a brewery called Community that makes a beer called Mosaic, which is really good. And they came out with a 420 specialty beer that tasted just like some of those beers that I'm talking about from the East Coast that were very juicy and very hazy. But I only was able to get it once, and now for next year, I will load up and probably buy $200 worth of that beer. It came in a 4-pack. It had a bunch of weed labels on it, like mimicking the 420. But dude, that was some of the best beer that I've ever tasted. And I only had it one time, man. So that's a long answer because I'm such a beer snob, but most of my favorite beers come from the East Coast, man. They know how to make juicy, hazy IPAs. That's for sure.
Awesome, man. Well, man, Jason, have a great rest of the day, man. Have an amazing Friday. Go out there, enjoy your family, enjoy the weekend, man. And I don't have to tell you, just enjoy some great beers, man.
Yeah, you got it, man. I appreciate you having me on. You do the same, brother. We'll talk soon.
All right, everybody, this is the show for the day. Glad y'all tuned in, and we'll see you next time right here on the Getting Started podcast.